So good evening. My name is Don Ficken. I'm with the Library Telescope program, and once again, we're happy to have you as our guest for another episode of our monthly programs. This is our number 48th video. We've been doing these for quite a long time, and we cover a variety of topics, everything from how to use a telescope to how a library might launch a program, and we've even done some cool things about observe the moon night, those type of things. But tonight we have a very special guest, Dr. Vayujeet Gokhale. He's with the Truman State University. He's going to talk to us about the International Dark Sky Week, which will be coming up very soon in April. And he's really excited. I've known Dr. Gokhale for quite a while, and he's very good. He understands the light issues, the dark sky issues really well, and so we're gonna have a little fun with that. But before we get started, what I'd like to do is go through just a little bit about the Library Telescope program, if you're not familiar with it. We've been around for quite a while. 2008, it was launched in New Hampshire. We are spread across the world now. We have, I believe, actually 9 countries, I think. And if you go to our website, there's a clickable map that is really cool. You can go into Canada or the US or Europe and just click on a particular region of the map, and you can drill down and you can find the outlets that we think are the library outlets that we think are participating in the program. And sometimes it's not just a library, it might be a school or maybe a park or something like that. So anyway, if you go out to librarytelescope.org, just click the locations and you'll be able to drill down. Plus we have a lot of really other good stuff out there about resources, about astronomy and things like that. So we did a big thing last year. We actually made ourselves a legal entity, a nonprofit, a 501c3. And so we have a lot of resources we're working on, a lot of things that are underway. How-to videos are on their way for development. We're working on ambassador training, in other words, people that support the programs. We're working on grant programs so that maybe a library can start this with a little bit of help from us, and some themed events that a library might be able to do, Astronomy Day or Lunar, Observe the Moon Night, that type of thing, somewhere coming up here. We'll be able to help you with that. So one big change that came out of late last year is we lost our supplier. Our Orion telescope's been around for a long time, and our Zummel supplier went away. So we have an agreement with High Point Scientific, which is in New Jersey, and they are producing some custom-made telescopes for us. In the meantime, we've got this little Zummel right now that they've already modified. So there's a lot of changes we make to make a telescope work for you. In other words, we don't want things like the dust cover to be lost, so we put ropes on those. A lot of things like that. And so I think if you can visit their High Point Scientific and just type in Library Telescope, you'll pull up a page. The price is very reasonable at $319.95, free shipping in the continental US. And we encourage you to get involved with us in that way. It's very simple now compared to what it used to be. If you check the front page of our website, the Astronomical League, a guy named John Goss prepares really cool sky charts every month, covering a lot of stuff. This is an example for March. It's not overly complicated, so it means that you can just dive in and start figuring out things. And as you may know, the sky changes every month, so you have to have a map to match the sky for the month you're in. So he always produces these, not only in English, but he has a Spanish version of these. So I encourage you to check out the front page of our website. And as I mentioned before, we are doing lots of videos. Here's an example. You can find these on our front page of our website. You can click on any of these and you'll be able to go out. There are typically only 30 minutes or less, and so just a good chance for you to look at a lot of different topics. By the way, before I turn it over to Vayu, this is a cool little thing. It just shows the power of a little telescope. This was taken through an iPhone, looking at an eyepiece of a library telescope a few days ago. Very cool. Just a simple, take a photograph, and that was really, really a lot of fun to do that. And so we were able to get a nice picture of the lunar eclipse. And if you just mess around a little bit with your iPhone or your mobile phone, your Android, just hold up the eyepiece. As long as you hold it steady in just about the right spot, and you got the good moon out there, you'll be able to take a wonderful moon shot. All right, so we're going to get started. We have folks on Zoom as well as folks on our Facebook page. We're going to hold the questions to the end. So if you could just check, if you're on Facebook, just type them in the comments area. I'll be watching for those. And for those of you on Zoom, just put them in the chat area and we'll wrap up here at the end. So I'm going to stop my share and I'm going to turn over to Vayu, who's going to talk about International Dark Sky Week. So hang on one second there. All right, cool. All right, you want to get going?
Sure. All right, thanks, Don. Yeah, I've known about the Library Telescope program for a while, and it's indeed awesome that you're taking it to the next level, Don. So it's exciting times for astronomy. What I'm going to do in the next few minutes is give you an idea about light pollution, talk a little bit about how um, stargazers, just casual stargazers, more serious amateur astronomers, or even then professional astronomers, are trying to quantify the quality of night sky, no matter where you are. If you are in the middle of the city, in an urban area, a suburban area, out in the country, in a state park or a national park, doesn't matter. Wherever you are, you can help quantify the quality of the night sky. You don't have to be in the middle of nowhere, in a very dark location. In fact, quite the opposite. So I'll tell you a couple of simple ways in which you can make these measurements. And the more we contribute to this effort, the more the chances are that we can actually make a difference. Because as someone has said, you can't conserve something, you can't preserve something unless you quantify it. And so the first step is to quantify what we have or what we don't have, and how we can then we can progress in terms of crafting policies and just habits for people that will then preserve that quantity for us. So I have a few slides I'll show, and then we'll just open it up for discussion, I suppose. So let me get going here, and then Don just warn me when when there are 5 minutes left, and so on, so that I can wrap things up. Okay, so let's give it a second for the screen to load. But as Don mentioned, International Dark Sky Week is coming upon us next month, and we'll post updates about it and remind people regarding some of the things we will discuss today and other aspects of dark skies that are valuable as we go along. Today, in the interests of time, like I said, I'll focus on some basic aspects of light pollution, and then how you can contribute to quantifying what's called sky brightness. So here's a rough outline of the talk. If I had a lot of time, then I'd spend more time discussing why it is important to preserve natural darkness at night. I'm going to assume you are aware of some of these, or these things you can look up relatively easily. But being astronomers, being someone who use telescopes either for yourself or go out during star parties and look through telescopes, you know already what darkness at night is. You have seen, hopefully, the Milky Way, or do get a chance to see the Milky Way. You've seen objects through the telescope. So there's that angle to it. But I really want to focus on that second point that I have at the bottom of the slide, which is how you can contribute to this effort of preserving our natural darkness by helping us make some sky brightness measurements. So I'll jump to that second point right away, and then if there is time or if questions come about, then I can talk a little bit more about why, apart from astronomy, apart from the ability to see stars, why should the random person on the street care about natural darkness at night? So I'll let that question just kind of hang there in the ether and address it later if we have time, or someone wants to know because they asked me a question. So the at the most fundamental level, and this point is sometimes lost because we are so in the moment of just enjoying the galaxy or the moons of Jupiter, or the rings of Saturn, or the craters on the moon, all these beautiful things that you can see through telescopes. You get caught up in that, but really what we are doing when we are out there in the dark, looking at these things, enjoying each other's company, listening to stories and tall tales that amateur astronomers are likely to spin yarns when they're telling you about all their exploits, about what they've done, is that you are basically connecting with your natural environment. This is what you're basically doing at a fundamental level. That is what gives us, if you really think about it, that is what gives us that comfort. That gives us that joy that we get. Is otherwise we know we're going to be indoors watching into your TV screens or your phone screens, but instead here I am breathing the natural air, enjoying the natural ambience of a dark or darkish night, and all these other people who are enjoying the same kinds of things that you are. So that aspect of it shouldn't be lost. I mean, we shouldn't be obsessed with it, but we shouldn't lose it either. That it is basically a connection with nature, and astronomy and stargazing is one facet of that natural nighttime environment that we happen to enjoy as either amateur astronomers, casual stargazers, or professional astronomers. And this is the kind of stuff we like to see. This is, of course, something you don't see through a telescope, but if you're out there in the dark, there's a decent chance you might get to see the Milky Way, or you yearn at least to see it. If you are in an urban or suburban area around St. Louis or Kansas City, unlikely you can see the Milky Way, but you go somewhere to a state park or a national park, you want that opportunity, and many people seek that. So this is what's going on in our heads, if you will, when we are enjoying the night sky. But what I want to point out is that there are other phenomena as well, astronomical phenomena, and many of you probably enjoyed the Northern Lights over the past, what, 6, 8 months, a year or so. We've had a series of Northern Lights events. We've had a couple of comets show up in the past year and a half. Um, and this is what's called the zodiacal light that you see in the bottom left. And then you have the lunar eclipse that just occurred, and Don showed us that image of his as well. But what I want to emphasize here, before we go on to how you can contribute, is that astronomy and stargazing is one aspect of our connection with nature in the nighttime environment. There's a lot of other things going on. Some of the things that Don has been working on in various capacities is hearing bats, hearing bird signals. You can hear migratory birds. I was out at my observatory here in Kirksville at night for the lunar eclipse, and I could hear the flapping of the Canada geese. I couldn't see them; they were up in the sky somewhere, but I could, of course, hear their sounds. But I could also hear the flapping of their wings, flapping of their wings. And there are insects. Fireflies will start showing up in a couple of months. I saw coyotes. I saw deer running around. I saw other critters scampering away. I saw a couple of darting eyes looking in my direction. I was out in the field, and all this activity is going on at night. And that is why, and there are people who are interested in those things. We look up into the sky, but most other people and scientists and ecologists and biologists and whatnot, zoologists, they are looking at these critters on the ground and studying them, their well-being, how they live their lives, how they help us in various ways, either as pollinators or uh, um, and or food or whatever. They help us in various ways. And so I think one of the things also we shouldn't lose is, yes, we enjoy the night sky, but there are other aspects of night that make it worthy for us to fight for preserving that natural darkness at night, which we are of course losing because of our use of artificial light at night. And here are some pictures that I've taken in the last couple of years. And the bottom left one, of course, is just a depiction of our own circadian rhythm, which is affected by the presence or absence of artificial light in our nighttime environment. But like I mentioned, butterflies, pollinators of various kinds. That picture in the middle over there is an all sky camera image. And the green glowish things you're seeing are actually fireflies just fluttering along, just happen to photobomb that all sky image. And of course, migratory birds are affected as well, because most migratory birds travel or migrate at nighttime. So here's a picture. I know it's a little busy, but the left-hand side of it is this side of it is the daytime lumen level. You don't have to worry about the numbers so much. That's just how bright it is during the day. A natural night is down here somewhere. And all I want to impress on you, forget the details, when the moon is out and all that, it's a little brighter, obviously. What I want to impress on you is that what we have done through artificial lighting is that most urban areas, forget the details for the time being, most urban areas are in what we will call perpetual twilight. So this line over here, this vertical line over here is sunset. This SS stands for sunset. And this is twilight. And then here is where your nighttime has basically begun. That's astronomical twilight right there. And in the presence of artificial light, there's just so much light that our lumen level, our lux level in our ambient environment, if you are in suburbs. Even you don't even have to be downtown St. Louis. Many suburbs are now so lit up that you're in perpetual twilight. This is not good for any of us. It's not good for humans. It's not good for all those animals and insects and birds that I talked about a minute ago. And of course, it is not good for stargazing. And most astronomers have noticed this over the years, that creeping glow from the sky, from the city into our sky. And that's what our sky looks like now. It is just washed out. You can barely see the Milky Way, unlike the image I showed you earlier, where you could see the Milky Way crystal clear. It was taken at a dark sky location in Flagstaff. So this is kind of the background of all this. This is what's going on in our nighttime environment, and most of you are aware of this because you do spend time outdoors at night looking at astronomical objects. But there's more to it than that, like I mentioned. So what I want to impress on you in the next few minutes is how can you contribute? How can a casual stargazer or either a casual amateur astronomer or a serious amateur astronomer or even a professional astronomer, how can you help with addressing this issue, which really I want to cast not so much as studying light pollution. On the other hand, I want to really cast it as how can you contribute to preserving dark skies? Because it's not as if light pollution is bad for you. It is. But it is also true that darkness is good for us. Natural darkness in the nighttime environment is good for us. It's necessary. So we have to fight for that as well, not just against something. We have to fight in favor of something. And we want to make our case at least as strongly as we can for preserving that darkness. So how can you help? There are various levels in which you can help. But at the most fundamental level, given that you are part of the Library Telescope program, either as someone who sets this up and shows people objects in the sky by pointing the telescope, or if you're a participant where you're just going to these events and enjoying, other people show you these objects in the sky, no matter where you fall in this category, you are already out there in the dark. You've already made that first effort to be out there after sunset when it has gotten dark. That's 90% of the job done in terms of contributing, because you're already experiencing. You just need to figure out how to then record what you're experiencing in terms of what you're seeing in the night sky. And several years ago, the Noir Lab, which is funded partly by the National Science Foundation, started this citizen science project called Globe at Night. And the website is over there, Globe at Night. And I noticed a typo here. It's not Globe and Night, it's Globe at Night. And it is a program where citizens can participate and then quantify the amount of light pollution by measuring a quantity called sky brightness. And you can do it in different ways. We are all familiar with this because, again, we have all been out in the nighttime conditions. And you see this kind of haze from cities and towns around us, which technically is essentially sky glow. Your sky is glowing because of all this scattered light, and the source of them. This is not magical. This doesn't just happen in a vacuum. Usually there is a source or a bunch of sources that is spewing light up into the sky, which then scatters in our atmosphere whichever way. Some of it comes in your direction and manifests itself as sky glow. So how do you quantify that? How do you measure that? So here's a picture from my observatory on a foggy day. You can kind of see the fog band next to those hay bales over there. So it is particularly accentuated, this sky glow, when it is a foggy night. But those lights, those glow that you see just above the tree line, comes from our stadium. And then I just drove up to the stadium and actually took pictures of those stadium lights. And you can see, and this could be any neighborhood anywhere, right? This could be any neighborhood in St. Louis or, in Chesterfield or Creve Coeur or wherever, or it could be in Kansas City at Overland Park, wherever. We have seen all this. So how do we actually, though, quantify this and report this is the question. That's where this Globe at Night comes in. The website for Globe at Night is very good. I have a screen capture of it, and then I'll actually show you the website on the browser as well, so you can actually see how you can use it. But you can click on this link once you have access to this PowerPoint and access it yourself. And what you can do is you can click on that Observe link, and then it then opens up another window which has various maps of a particular part of the sky depending on what time of the year it is. This one happens to be around Pegasus. This is from last year or a couple of years ago, but the stars don't change from one year to the other. There's Mars and a couple of planets there which might of course change from year to year. But you basically make a mental image of this, and some of this comes from practice. And you say, okay, I'm going to go out, let my eyes get dark adapted. So maybe spend 10-15 minutes in the dark without looking at your cell phone or any light of any kind. Maybe even close your eyes if that helps. Once your eyes are dark adapted, you look up into the sky and you say, well, how many stars do I see, around, Deneb or Vega or Altair or around Pegasus? So Enif and, all those stars in Pegasus. And if your sky looks yay bright, or your sky looks like you can see these many stars, some of this is, of course, you're approximating. And you say, okay, it corresponds to a magnitude 4 chart. Or if you say, well, it's a beautiful, dark sky location, you might even get magnitude 6 or magnitude 7 charts, meaning I can see stars up to magnitude 4. I can see stars up to magnitude 5. And sometimes once you're experienced, you can even go 4.5 because you're like, it's better than 4, but not as good as 5. It's somewhere in between. This is all a mental sport. Initially, I recommend you can print this out, and I'll show you from where you can print these out in a printer-friendly format, so you don't have that black background sucking out ink from your printer. I'll show you how to print that out. Initially, on one sheet of paper, so you know how to print 10 sheets, and then just take it with you. Initially, you might have to turn on your flashlight just to kind of get used to it, but you're learning. And now, for example, I have been doing this for years now. I can go look at any sky, and basically within about 5% or so, I can get the limiting magnitude reasonably accurately. Very straightforward in terms of you're literally just looking up into the sky and asking the question, how good is my sky? How many stars do I see in a given part of the sky? And then you come to the Globe at Night website and you enter in your data. I've circled these. I know this font is a little small, but it was hard to fit this whole thing in one page. What date and time did you observe? You can enter in your location on the red circle that I've shown, and then you can enter in some comments about, it's a rural area or suburban area or the rooftop of my science building if you're on campus or whatever. And then you can select that map, which is shown over here in the elongated circle to the right, magnitude 4 or magnitude 5 or magnitude 6. And then you select the weather condition. Was it clear? Was it partly cloudy? What was it? Maybe you can add some comments as well in that box over there. And you basically then submit the data. And I'll show you how this works in a minute in real time. I have written up a user guide. You can scan this QR code and go to the user guide. I'm going to open it in another window in a second. And there's also the second way of doing it is by using this sky quality meter. This is a device that costs about $150. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it straight from the manufacturer, who is based in Canada. And it's, again, with shipping and handling and all that, is about $155, $160. Very handy device, very durable. I have one from 15 years ago. It still works fine. I changed the battery on it a few times, but apart from that, it's still going strong. It's been through, it's been through everything. It's been left out in the car. It's been left out I forgot it outside once. It's been in the sun, it's been in the shade, it's been in the cold, it's been in the heat, and it's survived. So it's a very handy tool to have. And it's basically a light sensor. The little dot you see on the top of that is just the sensor. You click a button and it makes a measurement for you. And you can enter that measurement if you go back on the Globe at Night website, which I'll again show to you in a minute. Here are some measurements. You can actually go to the Globe at Night website and see where, once you enter in your data, you can actually see that in real time. As soon as you enter the data, you can go to that link that I have over there, app.globeatnight.org/map, and you can click on it, and I'll show you one data point from St. Louis. You click on it, and whatever information you entered then shows up over there. Year 2023, what date and time, what latitude and longitude, all that. It picks it up from how you entered in the data on the web page, and then you get your sky quality meter reading, and was it clear, and this, that, and the other. So let me actually show this to you on the actual browser. So here's the Globe at Night website. Click on Observer here, and you can look at campaigns. The campaigns are basically around new moon, because you don't want the moon to be up in the sky. So the campaign is just about coming up in a couple of days, because we just had the full moon 4 days ago when we had eclipse, and now we are moving towards new moon, which means early in the evening, just after sunset and before midnight, the moon practically isn't a factor. It rises after midnight as we start approaching towards new moon. So these 8 or 9 days, the moon won't be a factor for the most part. If you get up at 3 o'clock in the morning, it might be up there. But if you are out at 10 o'clock at night, it's unlikely the moon's going to be out there during these days. And then you make the measurements. How do you report the data? You click on this report button, and I showed you the screen caps. This is exactly what we have. You can enter in the date and time over here. You can enter in the location here. So let's do Kirksville, Missouri, which is where I am based. Say map it, and it goes in there. You have to hit Control and then scroll on your mouse. You can scroll in and out, and then you can zoom in enough and say, okay, I'm not over there, I'm actually over here, or I'm actually over there. You can play that game, and then you can enter in some comments. You can say it is semi-rural, town to the east, or something of that sort, east, northeast, let's say, if that's indeed the case. Or you can say in the middle of town, and that's fine. And then if you had a sky quality meter, you would enter in the data there. So let's say I got a reading of 19.94. And then it self-selects the map. If I don't have a sky quality meter, then I will select what map I think was the best, what my sky looked like the best. It was, let's say, clear, and then I can enter in some sky conditions. It was clear or not clear or whatever, and then I can submit my data. I'm not going to do that, obviously, because this is made up, but that's it. And so it's pretty straightforward to do that. Now, if you go back to the home page and look at this maps and data and click on interactive map, that's where you get this measurements. And I'll again zoom in a little bit to somewhere in Missouri. Here's Kirksville up here in northeast Missouri. Oh, that's Columbia, actually. Kirksville is further up here somewhere. There we go. That's Kirksville. And that's me and my students taking data at lots of places around town. But we have a couple of measurements from Columbia, from Mizzou. One of my colleagues is doing that, and we can click on it, and it gives you that information that I mentioned earlier. So pretty straightforward. How to enter in your data, I showed you that. And once you've entered in the data, or you're just curious, I want to see how many measurements are made in Missouri, or how many measurements around St. Louis, how, what's going on up here in Kirksville, you can then go ahead and find out. You also see to the bottom left, it's year 2025. You can go to previous years, and you can see it goes back a couple of decades here, and look at data from across the world, not just Missouri or Kirksville or St. Louis. We have data from across the world over here that you can see. And you see there are certain hotspots over here, United States, Europe, India is catching up, Japan's up in the game here. Places where people actually live in Australia is also filling up. But it's mostly, at least for now, the United States and parts of Europe which are contributing the most. Okay, this user, last thing I want to say is the user guide that we have over here is housed on what I'm calling the Campus Shine website. That's linked there on the QR code. And the QR code will directly take you to our Globe at Night user manual. And the user manual spells out both how you can record your measurements without having that sky quality meter, and also with sky quality meter. Now, my guess is most of you don't have the sky quality meter, so you'll do the measurements the way I mentioned earlier. You will basically look at a particular star map, and in this manual, I've actually gone ahead and printed out the star map for each month. So this is for the upcoming March observational campaign. And I took the middle date, right? It was between 21st and 30th. I took the 25th and took an image. So all you have to do if you want to do the March observation is print this one sheet of paper out, take it with you, get dark adapted, look up into the sky and decide which of these maps best represents the sky you have. Maybe you'll have to turn on the flashlight once or twice, wait again for 5 or 10 minutes for your dark eyes to get dark adapted. Make sure you don't shine the lights into someone else's face or eyes, and just do it a couple of times. You can do it from your back porch. You can go to a field and do it, a field which you're familiar with. It's public space, all that good stuff. Or if you're a nearby park, it's probably the best place to do it. The only caveat here is you don't want too many trees close by, because then you don't have a clean shot of the sky. And of course, you don't want any overhanging lights nearby, because that's not going to allow you to get dark adapted. So it will bias your measurements. But again, very straightforward. And once you decide, okay, my sky looks like this map over here, just kind of make a mark on it. Go back home later that night or next morning, go to this page, enter in the correct date, the correct time. Go find your location by putting your city or town, and then zooming in and out to the exact location. Enter in all this other good stuff, and then choose the map that you had marked out. Sky conditions. Put in any special comments if you want to. It was hazy, or maybe there was smoke in the sky, or there were a few clouds towards the west, or something like that. Submit your data, and then go to the map and scroll to where you entered in the data. Boom, you'll have your measurement there. This set of measurements over the past decade or so have shown that light pollution is increasing at the rate of about 10% every year. This is all citizen science. Each data point may have a large error on it, because most people who enter data here aren't trained astronomers or even amateur astronomers. They're just people who are doing this because they care about the night sky. But because so many of them do it, you beat down the error, right? Because some people overestimate the darkness, some people underestimate it. Overall, it becomes a wash, and you get reasonably accurate overall measurements with really small error bars. And that has shown that our light pollution is increasing by about 10% in the last 5 to 10 years. So you can contribute to real science by just doing one additional thing, right? You're already out there, you're already observing the night sky, you're already noticing sky glow, you're already noticing, oh, it was much clearer at that location, or much darker at that location than it is over here, all that kind of stuff. Well, just take that additional step, make a record of that, go back home, enter in that information on the Globe at Night website, and you will really, really help us quantify the problem. Okay, so with that, I'm just gonna stop and then invite any comments or questions you might have, or if Don has any clarification comments to make.
Yeah, so we do have we'll take a few minutes for some questions. So if you're on Facebook, just put them in the chat there, or Zoom, just same there, put in the comments area, whatever. So I want to stress two things. First off, sometimes people think that they have to go far out of town to take these measurements, and don't you really want them to take them in town? I mean, wherever they live.
Yeah, absolutely. It doesn't matter where you are. The only conditions are that make sure your eyes are dark adapted, so you're getting as accurate a measurement as you can, and that there are no bright lights or overhanging trees obscuring your view, because of course that's going to affect your ability to measure things correctly. So find a location or two which is public access, or if you have a big enough backyard, or which doesn't have too many trees, or the trees are farther away. Scope out the place during the day, a place that you're familiar with. For example, I and my students, we go to Thousand Hills State Park because it has a nice big lake, which is a great spot, right? If you have a nice big lake, by definition, you don't have trees there, right? Because there's a big lake. And then there are very few lights there as well. In fact, there are practically no lights there at certain locations near the lake. And it is publicly accessible. It's right next to the door. In fact, in some locations, I don't even get out of the car, right? You can just sit in the car on the side next to the, in a parking lot. Again, make sure you're safe and all that. But in the state park, you just pull off on one of the viewing points, and I literally just sit in my car and look up, and it's fine. I don't even have to get out if it's too cold. So make sure you have a couple of such locations scoped out. I've taken hundreds of readings from my backyard because it doesn't take much at all. So
So we have a couple questions. The first question is on Facebook. It says, is it always the same part of the sky that you are measuring?
Usually, so if you go to that, go to the manual that I showed you that we have written up, the sky changes, and what you really want to look at is the high, close to the highest point in the sky, because it's unlikely you're going to have trees or something like that. If it's close to the southern horizon or whichever horizon, buildings, lights, trees are going to be in the way. So the way the campaigns are designed by Globe at Night is they pick a constellation that is close to overhead, so that it is, so all these kind of obstacles don't get in the way. But that's all listed on the website and on our manual.
Yeah, okay. The next question, this one comes from Zoom. Are there sky simulation software that takes into account light pollution so you can see the impact of levels of light pollution?
Yeah, that's a good question. There are some sophisticated software that do this. So you need to know like Python programming or Jupyter Notebook programming, where you can embed data from satellites and then superpose it on an actual map of your location. So that's a little much for most people. Even I can't do that. The best option in that case is, this is not even simulated. This is real. Is lightpollutionmap.info. And I'll post the link for it in the chat. Lightpollutionmap.info is actually real-time satellite data. Sorry, I take that back. Not real-time, but it is satellite data that has been collected over the past few years. And here's, I'm posting the link. And you can again search for your location and zoom in and out. Let me see if I can share screens real quick here. And I posted the link in the chat, so you should be able to go there. By default, it defaults to Europe, but you can search for a location. For example, let's just do St. Louis, or you can just click your mouse and drag it around. One thing I'll say, when you go to this website, wait for it to prompt the location. Once you type in a few initial alphabets of the location you want to go to, then click on it, and it will take you to St. Louis. There we go. And then it embeds the satellite data. You can choose what satellite data you want here on the top right. Just leave it at default for now. It's 2015. It's old, but it's there. And then you can actually click on any location. You can zoom in and out just like Google Maps. You can just zoom in and out to your particular location, your own house, your your school, or your local Costco or whatever, and then click on it. And when you click on it, which again has that information. It has the average sky quality meter reading. It has a few other quantities there, which may or may not make sense. And then it also has the Bartle scale, which some of you might be familiar with. So it's class 6, which is not very good, but we're basically downtown St. Louis at this point. I have my students do a lab based on this. I tell them, hey, your goal is to go to the darkest location in Missouri, or darkest location in the United States. Go find darkest location, find 5 or 6 of them, right? Because there are several. You can play that game. It's a fun exercise. Another kind of little question that I ask my students is, hey, let's say you're planning to go to a set of national parks in Utah and Arizona for your summer vacation. Where would you rather go if you wanted to look at the Milky Way, or if you wanted to look at dark sky objects and sort of thing? It's a fun little tool. And again, this is not even just simulation. This is real data.
So the one thing that I'm going to wrap up here, because I think we're getting about our time, but one thing that's important is that it's really easy to take the library telescope out and just look at something and spend 10 seconds, 15 seconds, and go on to something else and look at that for 10 or 15 seconds. And you're sort of touring the sky, and that's fun. But the thing about the Globe at Night program, it actually makes you find one constellation. And it's really easy to find because where they selected it for that particular time, it's pretty high in the sky. And it's the first
Yeah.
step toward learning the light in the night sky, right? So I think that is really a good reason to get involved in Globe at Night, just because it helps you start. They've sort of self-selected a good stepping stone to get the night sky figured out, right?
Yep, and the other, and that's a very good point, Don, because that you have to start somewhere, and this gives you a good excuse to start. And if you are there as part of a library telescope program, chances are there is an amateur astronomer around who knows the constellations, and they can show you, okay, there's Cassiopeia, there's Pegasus, there's Perseus, or whatever, there's the Andromeda galaxy, or that's where Andromeda, the constellation, is. And that's how we learn. Like, I'm an astronomer, and I can say with reasonable confidence I know most constellations in the sky, but I didn't learn this myself. Someone told me, right? The first time someone has to show you, okay, there's Andromeda, there's Pegasus, there's someone has to show you. The first step could just be that, hey, I want to know where Pegasus is because I want to do a globe at night measurement. So it gives you something in exchange, apart from just just the joy of knowing. You say, I'm actually contributing to science in a positive way.
Well, this has been a great presentation, and it's really just another way that the library telescope can connect you to the outside world. And also thank you, by the way, for extending that just beyond just looking at the stars, but how nature and how it affects back to us. So there's a really lot of good reasons to do this International Dark Sky Week to help us recognize
I
that.
think I'll quickly add on. I know we are short of time, but this is also another, just extending the point we just made earlier about learning constellations, an excellent way to get students involved or kids involved, because they're curious,
Yes.
but they don't, many times I've noticed with even my students who are undergraduate students, or I have young kids, is if there isn't like an ultimate kind of goal or aim. Like, you and I can just enjoy something for the sake of enjoying, right? We're old enough for that. But for the youngsters, you need to like give them a direction, saying at the end, I want you to do this with this information. That's great. And especially if you can go on a computer and sit with the kids and then enter in data and then look at the map and, oh, let's look at my school, let's look at your school, let's look at your aunt's farm over there in Kansas, all that kind of stuff. You can kind of extend it beyond the nighttime and just kind of get them more involved. So yeah, it's a good stepping stone to do lots of things, because ultimately, and this is the thing that I have learned from experience over the past 20-25 years that I've been teaching, we need to figure out a way to connect our kids, the younger generation, with nature. We have to figure that out. That's the thing that is really missing in our society right now, including ourselves, right? We ourselves spend so much time indoors in front of computer screens and our phones. It's infinitely worse for, children younger than 20-30 years of age now. I mean, it's just, my kids are 8 and 6, and it takes an effort to drag them out.
Yeah.
And so if you can find ways to do that, it's a win.
Plus the Orion and other constellations have great stories that you can really build on.
Absolutely. Yep.
It's more than just looking at stars. It's really a lot of fun stuff that you can have a lot of fun. You can make that actually a routine, that every month you go out and tell a story about that particular constellation. So I think it's a great entree to the sky. So I think we're going to wrap up here. We have recorded this not only of course on Facebook, but I'm recording this with our Zoom, and we'll put this out onto our YouTube channel and onto our front page of our website sometime tomorrow. And I really appreciate you joining us tonight. You always bring great stuff to me, and I even though I've heard some of this before, it's really awesome to hear your perspective once again. So thanks so much for joining us. I appreciate that.
Sure. Yeah, and thanks for those who joined us live and for those who see the recording. And thanks, Don, for putting all this together and for your leadership for both DarkSky Missouri and the Library Telescope program.
Well, thank you. So good evening. We'll look at you. We'll hope to see you next month. We haven't quite selected our program, but we always try to come up with something fun. If you have some ideas, let us know just through our website or through our Facebook page, and we'll try to do what we can to, maybe not next month, but somewhere down the road, to hit the topic of interest to you. So once again, thank you and good night, everybody.
Bye, everyone. Bye, Don.